to this channel, please do subscribe and like so that it encourages me to do some more videos interestingly. And now today we are going to discuss about the spinal cord in detail. And actually the spinal cord is nothing but it is surrounded by this vertebral canal. So let's talk about this vertebral for a few minutes and then we'll get into this topic. You know that we are having cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral and coccygeal. So let's get into detail. This cervical has 8 cervical vertebrae and 8 pairs of spinal nerves here. And next thoracic, it has 12 and also 12. And next lumbar, which is 5. It consists of 5 spinal nerves, 5 pairs of spinal nerves. And next sacral, it consists of 5. And next coccygeal, it has 1. These all fused to form this one. And as we know that the cervical takes care of this upper limb, that is, it forms brachial plexus, and this lumbosacral forms takes care of this lower limb and innervates into them, and this thoracic innervates into the trunk. So yeah, this is about the spinal nerves, which are of total of 31 pairs of spinal nerves that arise from this each segment. So let's get into this spinal cord. This is a rough diagram of the spinal cord. Actually, the spinal cord consists of grey matter and also white matter. Grey matter inside and white matter outside. In brain stem and brain it is actually reverse. So this grey matter consists of the cell bodies and this white matter consists of the axons. So here we are having a dorsal root, which is sensory, and the ventral root, which is motor. So this gray matter, so this dorsal root ganglia, that is here, dorsal root ganglia, which is example of pseudo unipolar neurons. If you check out the previous videos, you can find that. And this is derived from the neural crest. So these grey matter consists of this dorsal horn, ventral horn and intermediate zones and also Clark's nucleus. So this dorsal horn is sensory and ventral horn is motor, and this intermediate zones are having this T1 to L2 and also S2 to S4. So these intermediate zones are nothing but the zones which are present in between, so that is named as intermediate. And next we can get this Clark's nucleus, that is from T1 to L2, same as this first intermediate zone. So this Clark's nucleus is nothing but sensory neuron, that is proprioception, that helps in the proprioception to the cerebellum, that is sensory and also proprioception. Proprioception is nothing but position of limbs, and this dorsal ramus supplies to this back, neck and all, back, dorsal part of the neck, and the deep intrinsic back muscles, and this ventral rami or the root ventral ramus supplies to the skin of this anterior lateral trunk and limbs, and skeletal muscles of this anterior lateral trunk and limbs. We can also see some general spinal cord features like conus medullaris. We can see this in diagrams. So this cordus medullaris is present at S3, S5, that is inferior, that is below, and in adults it ends at L2, and also we can see this cauda equina, which has the nerve roots of lumbar, sacral, coccygeal, spinal nerves. And next we can see this phylum terminale at the bottom. So next, dorsal root ganglia, that is nothing but cell bodies of this dorsal root, that is which are primarily sensory neurons. And next we can see dorsal horn, we know that it is sensory. And next ventral horn, we know that it is motor. And also we can see the spinal nerve, where it is this dorsal and ventral are mixed. And the cervical enlargement for C5 to T1, that is for brachial plexus for upper limb, and lumbosacral enlargements, that is for lower limbs from L2 to S3, that is lumbosacral plexus lower limb. So yeah, I'll write these all together here, that cervical, brachial plexus, that is from C5 to T1, and lumbar plexus, that is L2 to S3, and intermediate zones, that is from T1 to L2, and also S2 to S4, and Clark's nucleus, T1 to L2. So it's better to remember this: brachial C5 to T1, lumbar L2 to S3, intermediate zones T1 to L2 and S2 to S4, Clark's nucleus T1 to L2. We can remember this as cervical plexus C5 to T1 and lumbosacral, so L2 to S3, 2, 3, and in between this T1 and L2 will having intermediate zones, and also S2, S3, S4 for this, and the T1 to L2 is same as Clark's nucleus, which is proprioception to cerebellum. And next we are going to discuss about this dorsal horn, which is completely sensory. So we can see here some of the divisions going here and there. So basically it is divided into medial division and also lateral division. So this medial division, which is pseudo unipolar neurons, is going directly into this ventral horn, this part, So this medial division ignores this dorsal horn for this reflexes, uh, and few may enter into the dorsal columns also. And this lateral division uh, will be here in this, I mean, it synapses in this dorsal horn. So basically these can be divided into two types, like first one is the neurons which enter into the muscle are by this denoted by this Romans, like 1A, 1B, 3, 4, 1B, 1A, 2B, and all. The neurons which enter into the skin or the cutaneous regions are denoted by this alphabets, like A, beta, and B delta, sorry, A delta, and C, in this way. So we can classically divide this into this muscle spindle. We can do this as muscle spindle, which responds to this stretching of this muscle, that is 1A, and also Golgi tendon organs, which responds for this force, that is 1B. It's important to remember this to avoid confusions and all. So yeah, we can see here that as medial division, it has proprioception and touch. Proprioception is nothing but position to limbs, which is Clark's nucleus, as we discussed. In that, we'll be having, as this proprioception is for muscle and Golgi tendon organs, so that we'll be having 1A and 1B fibers present here. And for touch, as it is cutaneous, we'll be having 2. Cutaneous means skin, that will be having A beta. 2 is actually non-important, it's not very important as it is divided, so we classified into that 2, and A beta here for cutaneous is important. And in lateral division, we'll be having sharp pain, cold, dull pain, warm. The sharp pain or cold, it has 3 and A delta fibers, and this dull pain or warmth, it has 4 and C fibers. So the largest the largest neurons here are this medial division neurons, because these are very big, and they ignore this dorsal horn and synapse directly in the ventral horn, and some may enter into this dorsal columns also. And the fastest neurons are, everyone might think that it is skin, but it is not. Muscle receptors here are the fastest. So I'm repeating these all once again because these are high yield. So this muscle derivated fibers are written in this Romans: 1A, 2B, 3A, 4, and all. So the skin derivated are written in this alphabets, like A beta, A delta, and C fibers. This muscle spindles which are stretch, which respond to the stretch, are 1A, and Golgi tendon organs which respond to this force are 1B. The fastest neurons here are muscle spindles. Muscle spindle receptors are fastest, and the proprioception, that is 1A and 1B, and touch it is 2, and also A beta, and sharp pain and cold it is 3, and A delta, and dull pain and warmth it is 4, and C fibers. And next is ventral horn. So coming to this ventral horn, in this ventral horn we know that this is completely motor, and we can see here the motor cells are alpha and gamma motor axons which are present in this ventral root, and we can see that the cell bodies are here, and this is substantia nigra and corticospinal and rubrospinal tracts. Here it is reticulospinal and vestibulospinal tracts, and these are alpha and gamma motor axons. These are alpha and gamma motor cell bodies are present here, and also these are cervical lamina 9 of cervical cords, alpha and gamma motor neurons. In this picture we can see this is present with the large ventral horn. Why this is present with the large ventral horn? Because the large ventral horns are present in the regions where there are more innervations like limbs, as in cervical region. We can see the large ventral horns in the brachial plexus and also in lumbar sacral plexus, that is between C5 to T1 and L2 to S3. We can see these three large ventral horns here, as C5 to T1 is nothing but brachial plexus, and L2 to S3 is nothing but lumbosacral plexus. So yeah, these can be classified into two types, that is alpha motor neurons and gamma motor neurons. Let's discuss about that. This ventral horn, that is, it has alpha motor neurons and also gamma motor neurons. This alpha motor neurons make muscles to contract, and these are present in the skeletal muscles. So these alpha motor neurons are also called as lower motor neurons, and these gamma motor neurons are nothing but they has more sensitivity of the muscle spindle. So yeah, in that we saw some small cells like this, which are Renshaw cells. These Renshaw cells are nothing but the cells which release glycine, but the main neurotransmitter is acetylcholine, but these release glycine to inhibit the alpha motor neurons. So these Renshaw cells can be affected mainly by certain certain toxins like tetanus toxins, which causes spasms or lockjaw. The main thing we should consider here before the picture I show you, that suppose this is some ventral horn. Yeah, I'm drawing roughly. So if this is ventral horn, the more medial it is, the more proximal it innervates. That is, it innervates to the lower, nearer parts. So if this is here, that means the more proximal, it innervates the more medial parts like trunk and all. The more distal it is, it innervates lateral parts like long distal regions like fingers and all. So that is important here. And we know that intermediate zone, which is from T1 to L2, it contains some preganglionic sympathetic neurons, cell bodies, and Clark nucleus. We also know that it sends unconscious proprioception. So next we'll discuss about this neural systems in another video. So if you are new to this channel, please do subscribe and like, so that it is very encouraging to me. So enjoy.